if it could be done. While we acknowledge that there are parties who have gone this way before, we want to especially welcome those who are here for the first time so that we can have one understanding as to the prerequisites required for nomination and for the conduct of elections. As you're aware, the Guyana Elections Commission, in our preparations, have already concluded our Claims and Objections Exercise, a prerequisite or a subset that is required to ensure that all eligible electors are afforded the opportunity to A, make a claim, or to have a transfer as is required, and they can do other activities relative to name change and transactions of that nature. I'm happy to report that at the end of that exercise, we did extremely well. We were able to garner approximately 3,800 claimants, new persons coming aboard, and we concluded with approximately 6,900 persons conducting transfer transactions. We are happy about that. It says to the Commission and to the Secretariat that the nation is responding to our request to be involved in all the processes required for the efficient conduct of elections. Today marks another step in that process where parties need to know, need to understand, so they can efficiently operationalize these processes going forward. It will no doubt, in our view, minimize likely errors contained in submissions for nominations day in the first instance, so that the period for corrections will be a smooth one, should there be any. So this is critical in our operational schedule, and as I said, it's against that backdrop that we're here today. I want to formally welcome you and invite the Chairman of the Elections Commission, Dr. Surujbally, to make some remarks. Chairman.
CEO, staffers, Commissioner Jones, representatives of the political parties, and media representatives. This is a milestone of many that we have undertaken and that we have over the past months, and especially since, and years, and especially since the date for the elections was announced. The conduct of elections which are free, fair and transparent and acceptable to the electorate and the nation and to the international community is in consonance with the spirit of the Constitution of Guyana. And every activity that GECOM undertakes is within that consonance. We will not step outside of our boundaries, also, even though we are often tempted to so do. Moreover, elections carried out in an environment of peace further would allow for the empowerment of the members of the electorate to exercise their fundamental human right to elect a government of their choice. And you know that political campaigning has already begun. It probably began even before the date of the elections was announced. Within this context, however, I am appealing, since I cannot dictate, I am appealing to combatants within the realm of the respective political parties to ensure that they maintain campaign decorum and that political speeches and rhetoric would remain respectful at all times. This respect is not just for the opposing parties themselves. This respect has to do with the Commission as well as the electorate in extenso. I wanted to believe that the days, and if I may relapse into the vernacular, the days of brotherism in the political campaigns had been over. In fact, I would go so far as to say, after the political parties so maturely put together with GCOM's guidance the Code of Conduct for Political Parties, that all the parties, to a large extent, there were deviations from the straight and narrow, but all parties adhered to a large extent to that Code of Conduct. I would hate to know that over the next 2 months that we revert to what we have had in the past. I think that political parties have in fact become more mature over the years, and I can speak of decades when I speak of years, having been born and brought up in an area right in the middle of political upheavals. With the tenets that are in that Code of Conduct, the tenets that are in the legislation, they are always representing our guiding principles. And GCOM is continuously committed to manage the processes governing the conduct of such elections in accordance with the relevant constitutional and other statutory provisions. In following those principles, we expect that we be treated with dignity and respect. If the point of origin in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your convictions is that elections represent one of the most important tiles in the mosaic of democracy, then you have to show that respect to the purveyors, to the organizers, to the management of that electoral process. And that in this case is GCOM. I can, as an aside, tell you, almost boast, that in the global environment, the Guyana Elections Commission is held in great esteem. I have no doubts about that. There is hardly a week, well, surely nary a month, that would pass without some electoral organization asking us for advice on one matter or the other. We are an integral part of a Commonwealth electoral network, and it is amazing how countries within the Commonwealth would ask us how we would solve problem A and problem B. And I will go further to say we have gained this respect. We have gained this respect because of the Secretariat's conviction to doing what is right and following perhaps the directives of the Commission. Also, the conviction of the Commission to get things right. It's amazing, I tell you, and I say this even though it's only Ms. Jones, Commissioner Jones here, to see commissioners fight over a single small point. Yesterday after we had a statutory meeting, and it was again quite interesting to see us fight to get a very small issue sorted out in the right way. And of that, I'm very pleased. I don't sound so often. I quarrel that we are not seeing the bigger picture, but in fact, inside, I do appreciate them looking at the not only the trees in the forest, but the leaves, the veins, and the stomata in those leaves. But having said that, relative to distrust, what do I find? There are those, as late as today, or as early as today, that would write something like this, and I quote, Dr. Steve Surujbally is making claims that Guyanese are distrustful and seem not to have confidence in the elections body. What up? Who? Which Surujbally? That I will say, I read again, that the Guyanese were distrustful and seem not to have confidence in the elections body. It's not me alone that will say that our work is not optimal, but not perfect, but surely near perfect. Not us only, but others from the diaspora within the EMB, the EMBs of the Caribbean or the Commonwealth or the OAS or UNISUR. They write to us. I think it was just yesterday that such a letter came in. It's not a boast, but the fact is that Guyana and Guyana Elections Commission, in the form of its chairman, became the chairman of the Association of the Caribbean Electoral Organizations. That is the respect that we have. And for someone to say that Surujbally is maintaining that there is disrespect for the Commission, the public is distrustful, is surely not reflective of a reality. And it is this sort of nonsense that must stop. If the GCOM is doing its work and doing its work well, I'm not begging for praise, but at the same time, I will react and must react to those who wish to blemish our work. And then we come, and I take this opportunity to speak about another matter that is current, and namely GCOM's approach to the youth. Let me make this clear. It is not just GCOM, but also the political parties that intend to, the larger ones at least, and I'm sure all of them, all of you, would believe that the youth of our country not only are the ones that will take over the mantles of leadership in the future, but that the youth of our country must be involved in both the electoral and political processes. Now, the political process really doesn't affect me, but the electoral one surely does. And this is, as I said, a global phenomenon. All over the world, the youth tend to divorce themselves from the electoral process. In countries where voting is compulsory, even in those countries where there are heavy rules and fines, the youth still abstain. In one particular country, the youth have challenged the statement or that law that says they must vote. They said the overriding law is the Constitution, and the Constitution gives them the right to choose, and they're choosing not to vote. Now, that's an interesting thing. The court case is going on now as we speak. But we don't want it to have that sort of confrontation, and though registration is compulsory, we have never made voting compulsory. But we are saying now, and we've been saying it all the time, not because of this global phenomenon, we are saying that we must do everything to get the youth involved in the electoral process. We do not approach the youth, individual youth groups. They approach us. And we are very clear that our involvement, some people might call it collaboration, but our involvement is limited to the provision of information for dissemination. So when you come and you change words to say endorse, suddenly involvement becomes endorsement. And I'm saying GCOM would not at any point endorse any external organization. When we give information, GCOM is saying that you must use the information as is. And of course, GCOM will not be providing any financial support. I have mentioned that the Code of Conduct for political parties will again be put in the electoral domain. And I would not have done that in a different way, but one party one of the party's leaders said to me that that code was for 2011. Well, for me, it should have carried itself on to 2015. However, what we will do is take the code of 2011. We know that it was weak in one or 2 points. We will strengthen it that way, and we will give that new and improved version to the political parties. As to when, I will ask your advice, because my own thing was to give now so that everybody can make an input. My advisors are telling me that we should give it after nomination day, when we know which parties are actually contesting. The jury is out on that, and I will make the decision later on. But you must know that no later than the day after nomination day, when we know that the parties, which parties are fighting the election, we will call them in, show them the code, give them the code, and ask them to collaborate among themselves or within the party to give us a more and even stronger, more impressive and even stronger document. Now, I know that it is not my job this morning to speechify too much. You have come here to look and hear and be educated on the technical matters relative to nomination day. And I will say this as an aside, and every time I make an aside, some newspapers put that as the heading. It is an aside that over the years, over the many elections, pretty much every party makes a mistake at nomination day. They never all get it right. The older parties included. I mean, some of the old heads, I won't call names, they pretty much get everything right. But even then, there are mistakes. But it is our job, even on nomination day, to help out that, look, you did not follow the law on this particular point. So I will now close that by saying that GCOM recognizes and acknowledges your constitutional rights as political parties. And that's why you've been invited to be in attendance at this meeting. We hope and we expect that after this meeting you will be adequately informed about what you're required to do, thereby contributing to smooth and efficient operations on nomination day and the following days leading to the approval of the list of candidates which you intend to submit. And that nomination day, I officially announce, will be Tuesday, April the 7th, 2015. Tuesday, April 7th, 2015, nomination day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, we will now have a short break for about 15 minutes. We can have some refreshments, after which the media may depart, and then we will commence with the technical sessions. Thank you.